What up? What up? What up? This is Mike the Philosopher, along with Black Male. May have some others coming in pretty soon, but the topic of today is uh why are why do it seem like the melanated community are so prone to conspiracy theories? Um, you know, for let me say this, Black. There is a viral video going on about farmers getting paid to destroy crops. Now, first of all, let me ask you: is this the case? Do you believe this to be true?
Well, first, I will say from a biblical perspective, there will be a repeat of history for Israelites. Now, with that being said, if you don't know the history of the Israelites, at one point in Egypt, ancient Egypt, they were told to make do without straw. Now, straw was fundamental in building of nations, right? They had to make do, though, without straw. Do the research, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's fundamental in every aspect, economically, as far as building homes, as far as eating. It was fundamental, and they were told to make do without it back then.
I know, but
It
I'm talking
created
about
it.
today, man. Like
Let
today,
me
there.
let me finish. I
Go
wasn't
ahead.
done.
Go ahead.
They were told to make do without it. So modern day time, there is now modern day time. We call that a famine when you're told to make do without fundamental things that you absolutely need in order to function in a modern society or the society you live in there. We are going to be told that everything that we use on this civilization, as far as how we know it, is going to be elevated in price. We're going to be priced out of a lot of things, but we're going to have to make do without it. We're going to have to try to function without it. Fundamental things. We ain't going to be able to afford them.
All
And
right.
I believe a lot of this stuff is generated. Is I believe it's manufactured, man, for whatever reason.
All right. Now, when you say it's manufactured, what do you mean? Because I'm not even sure you really answered the question. And the question is,
Specifically, I'll tell you, specifically, all of the goods that we normally utilize and enjoy, as far as, you know, things that we enjoy in the supermarket, for instance, you know, you don't see them on the shelves as readily as you used to. And everybody across the country know that, and as far as cars, even, you know, the microchips that, you know, that the cars are utilizing now because of the upgrades in vehicle manufacturing are not being released over here because they come from overseas, and there was negotiations that went left and this, that, and the third from the Trump administration, and they weren't allowed over here. So as a result, there's a lot of holdups and backups, as far as that goes. So even the manufacturers for vehicles are not being manufactured as fast as they used to be. So there's a shortage of vehicles over here. And then, of course, food, as far as vegetables and fruits and natural foods, is not being produced to the tune that it was. In other words, everything that we enjoy, and when you create scarcity, you create, all right, now it's a built in tax on scarcity. If it's not that much of it, I got to tax you for it. So the price automatically goes up on every level. So this is what we're about to start seeing. But it's manufactured because there's easy solutions. There's men who are making decisions prior to these events that create these environments, and that's why I say it's manufactured.
So, you're saying that it's manufactured. There is a term though, and I forgot the name of the term, but there is a term that companies use to legally not only create scarcity but also um, the companies of the I would say the U.S., probably even the world, made an agreement with each other. Okay, and they all said we need to be able to have repeat buyers, and what that means, there's a word for it. I wish I could think of it now, but um basically what they were saying is we need to stop making things so good. We need to start making things that have a lifespan to where they'll die out so that we can have repeat. And it's actually, I kind of want to say it's a law, but it's accepted by the law to do this, because what it does is it creates repeat customers. So and I'm not saying that let me give you an example. A cell phone company, right? I'm not going to say a name of a cell phone company. A cell phone company, they'll send you an update on your phone, and once you get that update, your battery stops charging the way it used to. And then they have the new version phone that's coming out next year. So what they do is they kind of send an update to make your current phone crap, so that it forces you to buy a new phone next year, the latest version. Or there used to be light bulbs that lasted forever. They got a filament that make light bulbs last forever, but that put the light bulb business out of business. So they said we will have a lifespan on these light bulbs, so they'll die out after a certain. They made the filament so that it didn't last very long. That's why now you got LEDs and stuff like that. But the point is, there is still one light bulb made, I believe, in the 60s or 70s or something like that, that's still working right now, still working in a warehouse, and it is probably one of the last of those light bulbs left, but it still works. But they stopped manufacturing it because it was kind of getting them out of business. So all the companies came together and created this agreement. We have to have a bit of entropy, so to speak, in our products, so that people can continue to buy, because it's good for business, it's good for the market, it's good for repeat customers. We can stay in business if we don't, like, even cars. Cars are not built as well as they once was, right? Things start falling off on the cars, and um, do you think that they're doing that same thing with the food and the farming? Like, this whole thing about farmers getting paid to destroy their crops, that's in TikTok news, ain't it? Ain't that
Well,
something you've seen in
I'll
TikTok,
say this.
or
I'll say
people saying?
this. I do agree with you that I believe they have manufactured different processes in order to generate business, ongoing and continuously. Yes, as far as making money goes, that's a definite strategy that I can definitely agree with. It's a fundamental thing. Like we're not gonna make cars too efficient. Because you're gonna put even mechanics. The mechanics know when they fix one problem. It's like a quiet rule of thumb. I'm gonna mess something else up. You know what I mean? And even if you don't come here, you're gonna go to another mechanic, and he same thing. He gonna fix one thing, and he gonna mess something else up. So it's kind of a rule of thumb. But so I agree with that point. But the bottom line, man, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the things on the surface that we are witnessing and have an explainable reason for ultimately will tie in to exactly my standpoint, what I believe in, which is the scriptures, prophecy in particular. It is going to lead us to a scarcity environment to where there will be famines, there will be shortages of, I mean, you name it, across the board. And the reason for it, though, and this is what we haven't discussed, but the reason for it ultimately is for control over every human being on earth. Because if you haven't noticed, or if you don't know, there is an agenda. Now we're talking about conspiracies for melanated people. There's an agenda for the eradication of, I would say, 90% of the people on earth, at least, according to the Georgia Guidestones. Google it, Georgia Guidestones. They have what they believe is their new 10 Commandments etched in stone in Georgia right now. It's been there since the 90s. It's marked in like at least 10 different languages what their new 10 Commandments is. And the second commandment is to delete at least 7 billion people from the population. They want 500,000 people on Earth. 500,000 total on Earth. That's one of their new commandments. So that means absolutely almost everybody got to die. Now, they erected that in the 90s, and it stands to this day. It's a monument. Now, listen. Now, I don't know if you would consider that a conspiracy, but when you see the path that everything is going, as far as the food shortages, as far as the vaccinations, as far as the chip that's coming, listen, they want to beat you into submission, is my opinion. They want control of the people. So in order to do it, you got to control their money, you got to control their food, you got to control their straw, and you have to make them make do without it, to the point where you break them and they become submissive. And then that's when you got them.
Yeah, man. I believe all of this. I don't even know why people would even want to. Well, let me say this. I don't want to say I believe all this, but what I'm saying is, I don't know why people would even want to stay in a country like that that is doing that. Let me say this. Are they paying farmers to destroy crops? I don't know. I don't know. I know the video went viral that showed that that's what they were doing. Um, but it would sort of make sense because of inflation. So if you have inflation, then you have to have more scarcity to justify the price, right? So if inflation is running rampant, the the only thing you can do in reverse is to create more scarcity. So a filet mignon is justified at being at its price because There's not many to go around. That's the only thing to combat inflation. So there may be something to this. Um, and what I was talking about before with the companies and their agreement is called planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence. That is what it is that the companies agreed to do. And let me tell you, planned obsolescence, I got the definition here. It's a policy plan or designed a pro or designing a product with an artificially limited useful life or purposely fragile design. So they make it so that it's purposely flawed. It will go bad. It will die. It will break because it's designed to break. It's designed to go bad. And let me go back into the definition. It's a purposely frail design so that it becomes obsolete after a certain predetermined period of time upon which it discriminately functions or suddenly ceases to function or might be perceived as unfashionable. So that's what planned obsolescence is. It's an agreement with companies. Now, companies run the government, right? So if companies want planned obsolescence and create inferior products so that you have to come back to them, then government is okay with this because again, the company's got the government in a pocket. So they can get away with this. And this is why when companies or cars and stuff from Asian countries and stuff, they actually try to make a better car. That's why they sell more, is because they actually try to make it last a while. And that's why people have been going foreign instead of going American, because American has this planned obsolescence to have customers to keep coming back. And when you're buying a car, expensive car, you don't want to have to keep coming back for something like that. You want something that will last a long time. I'm not saying that this agreement doesn't happen in Asian countries or any other foreign countries, but there is something to be said about creating scarcity, like you said, and creating um, you know it's almost like it's almost like a drug dealer, to be honest. They give you something, they hit you with the crack. You got the new phone. Oh, that's dope, that's dope. You get addicted to this new phone, and then they be like, okay, but that's only gonna last you for a while. We need you to come back. You know what I mean? So they
And
get
what
you
they
on the
do is
comeback.
they hit you with the low price. Like they hit you with the low ski woski at first. And then you become accustomed to it where you can't live without it. And then that's when they jack the price up. So it's a tax. It's a built-in tax after you're dependent. So we are dependent on food, obviously, right?
All right.
So what I've noticed, man, is when something is released and it's like, why in the world is Bill Gates, the Microsoft dude, computer dude, the largest landowner of farms? I don't care what his reasoning is, really, after I make that statement. I'm talking about, let's pause and let's really say, wait a minute, why is he involved in vaccinations? Wait a minute. What does he have to do with any of that? What is going on here? Let's stop for a second and let's really pause and really ponder on that. What in the world is going on where he makes computers? That's his job. That's what he do, right?
Do you think that there's some people who asked Bill to buy all the farms up so that they can control him?
Listen, if you ask me, I'll tell you. So you ask me, I'm gonna tell you. I know. I strongly believe, I'll put it like that. I strongly believe the organization, because his father is in eugenics. If you Google that, you'll understand what that is. That's his pops. He was a eugenicist, and they believe in controlling populations. So he ultimately knows by building computers his way around building antiviruses for computers. Simultaneously, coincidentally, even now he's involved with a so called antivirus in humans. Wait a minute. Humans are different from computers, though, aren't we? Aren't we? I mean, you program, you write code for a computer. There's a psychological aspect to that. Now, simultaneously, you're coming up with a vaccination for humans now, and it's like an antivirus. It prevents or protects from a virus. So it's the same frequency, same vibration on the surface, but it's a program that goes into it. It preps you for something. So simultaneously, now we're looking at, wait a minute, what's coming after this? Because this is me being the person who does not partake, right? Now I'm looking at it from a cautious standpoint. Wait a minute, bro. I know your pops. I know what he about. So hold on. You telling me the apple fell way far from the tree? Okay. Well, I'm not willing to believe that. So I'm gonna be a little cautious when you roll something out talking about it's for my good. All right, so boom, you roll out the vaccine, no sweat. Millions and millions take it, no sweat. All right, but I didn't. So I'm gonna take my chances. People with the vaccine still, getting caught up with the virus. Wait a minute, bro. Now, if this was your computer, now we'll have a recall on our hands because that's the whole point, to not get the damn virus. That's the whole point. Now, if I still got it, I want my money back. But nobody's saying that right now. We just rolling with the punches. We're trained to just accept whatever comes next, just like Kendrick said, his new joint. I
Right.
totally agree.
Yeah. Let me introduce Sean B in the building. You can unmute yourself. Let me ask you a question, man. Do you believe that the farmers are getting paid to destroy crops?
That farmers are getting paid to destroy the crops?
Yeah.
Mm,
And if so, why?
I don't know about destroying the crops, but they're probably not getting supplied the same amounts that they were getting supplied before the pandemic. I know at one point they had the borders pretty much locked down and they wasn't letting no freight come through. So a lot of businesses suffered because of that. And so when it comes down to farmers, I would assume that corporate farming is no different than any other corporation or business.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Let me say, yeah, the farmers. I don't. I could probably understand creating scarcity with everything but food. I don't understand what the motivation would be to create scarcity with food. I mean, we have more humans on the planet than we ever have in time, in in recorded time, in unrecorded time. We have more humans on the planet now than more than ever, and creating scarcity with food um, would not really make a whole lot of sense to me. The only thing that would be uh, sort of weaponized as is to create starvation, and with starvation comes crimes, and with crimes come, a whole bunch of melanated people going to jail, or or being buried, whatever the case may be. But melanated people best believe will be affected first. So if you're saying that they're creating this scarcity with food, um, I would say that it's probably being weaponized against the poorer people. I mean, not to say it's going to only affect melanated people. I mean, there's some poor white people too. There are poor people of all races and nationalities, whatever. But it will affect our community the most. So, is that really where you're going with it, though, Black? Is that what you're saying, that they're creating this scarcity of food to
Listen,
weaponize our
man.
communities?
Dude, listen. You answered the question, mid sentence. 100%. They were being paid to destroy their own crops. Double to destroy their crops. Physically, I saw the videos. I am going to destroy my own crops. I don't know why the government want me to do this, blah, blah, blah. But here I go, destroying everything. Trash, man. Good, wholesome crops. Natural, non-GMO crops.
That was here in the United States or what?
Yeah, that was here. And just washed everything and was like, well, I'm going to cash out, And then I saw a video today, even just maybe less than an hour ago. I saw a video, random, wasn't looking for, searching for it or whatever, but it was a farm. It was a popular farm in that town, in that area that normally has crops growing right now as we speak. Barren. It was barren. Like it ain't got nothing going on. Like it was just a random person who lives in the area, and normally there's stuff going on there. There's livestock, there's crops growing. And right now it's a ghost town. And they're like, what? They just recording it. Can't believe what they're seeing. Now, I know there's gonna be rebuttals in popular media that's gonna convince the majority and say, oh, that's not going on. Watch the shelves.
Yeah. Now, there was a report saying that was false. Okay.
Of
and
course.
and the report said that was a 3-year-old letter, and it was about waste material training. It wasn't about food crops. It was about
That's the
waste
spin.
material. Yeah, and that this guy on TikTok or wherever with this viral video uh, is false, and people shouldn't believe it. And the government did come out and say we are not paying people to destroy food. That is a myth. Everybody, get off TikTok, get off YouTube or whatever,
Yeah,
because
let's just
that's
believe them.
false.
Let's just
That's what
believe
the
what they say.
government said. So,
All right, but I'm saying he just showed the video of a farm, a popular farm that normally has crops going. It ain't growing no more. And this is not connected. One is not connected to the other, by the way. One story of, oh, they're paying me to destroy my stuff is not connected to a totally different person in another region recording video of a farm that normally is bussing, that is barren right now. Totally unconnected events, but the same scenario, the same situation. They're in cahoots without even trying to be, is my point. Now, it takes those that have eyes to see to really see. But listen, if you shallow on the surface, no offense to nobody, you're gonna rock with whatever they say, because they gonna say something different, and they gonna want you to believe what they say. Don't believe your own eyes.
well,
Though.
I know, but somebody's lying, man. Either the TikTok guy is lying or the government is lying, and I don't know which one to believe. That's
It's
why I
not just
say,
one. You gotta understand. It's not just one. It's not just one.
well, you think they
There's
both lying?
farmers. There's farmers who are being starved out. And to go deeper with the farmer situation, the farmers have been getting muscled. They've been getting muscled. They've never been really compensated properly for what they do. The farmers are out there putting it down on a high level, but they're not getting compensated properly. They're being starved out.
There's a lot of millionaire farmers. You know that, right?
There's a handful of them. There's a handful of them out there. But what I'm saying is, I'm not just. That's just like, oh, there's black people in the world. Oh, okay. Well, there's a couple. You know, there's some LeBron Jameses out there too. But how many? There's only one LeBron. There's only one Kobe. There's only one Jordan. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's that kind of thing. Like, don't, yeah, there's a millionaire farmer out there, but that's not the norm. That's not the norm. We're not looking at shooting stars here. There's a billion trillion stars, and there's a couple of shooting ones, right? So let's not use that example.
I'm not quite sure where you're coming from. What I'm saying though, Black, is look, there's a conspiracy. I'm gonna call it a conspiracy of the U.S. government paying people to destroy food and destroy other crops. And then there's another side of the government saying that's wrong. That's not true. We are not paying farmers to do that. Only one can be right, man. So which one do you feel is right, and why do you feel that one is right?
I remember when I was informed by Sean B years ago about the understanding that there was something called pink slime being instituted and rolled out as a food source back in the days. And of course it's still rolled out to this day. Of course it's a thing to this day, but the mass, I would argue that the mass majority of people who enjoy food right now have no idea that that's a thing. Like, they don't know, like, that's a thing. Pink slime. It's fake food, not food at all. But when you actually go through the whole situation, you can't tell the difference almost with what you think you buying and what you literally buying. Like, this is not natural. It's genetically modified. It's fake. Well, so they make food now.
Argument that they litigation to further your point is the fact that they'll take an animal and take a substance, a derivative from this animal, regardless of where they get this substance, regardless of the process that they have to go through to get said substance. And when they argue it in court, because I've watched this on Pink Slime and other cases, one such case that I'm speaking on is the ingredient that we all know to be a familiar and wonderful taste. Is called vanilla. It tastes like vanilla, but when you see it on an ingredient list, it says vanillin. And the way that they spell it is just like vanilla, except for after the two L's, it's I-N, like vanillin instead of vanilla. And so with this process, it's an extract that they get from beavers, nonetheless. Again, I'm not going to get too graphic, but the way that they argue it and the way that they argue a lot of clever arguments, such as destroying crops, is cleverly worded. Like, they say that vanilla or vanillin is natural when you have to do some unnatural,
because it comes from the beef.
Exactly. And so they take substances like pink slime and say, well, that was the remains of a carcass that we processed, and so it's technically natural.
Yeah. Go ahead, respond to that, Black.
Ooh.
And Sean B, if you could turn the TV down in the back, that would be great. But go ahead.
Dude, listen, man. Like, with that example, that's just one example. Now, some people who listen to this probably just now understanding that that's a thing. Pink slime is a thing. They never heard of it, and they're going to do their due diligence after this. The vanilla, they're going to do their due diligence after this. Understand, genetically modified foods is not new. And understand this, if you control the farmland, you control who can farm, you control food. And understand this: if you're a part of the government and you have an initiative, it would behoove you to control drugs and food in the form of Food and Drug Administration, because there's genetically modified foods and there's hormones and all types of chemicals pumped in the food. It's alternated no matter how you look at it. And the ones that's organic are suffering. And now to the point where they're getting heavily taxed. The diesel is through the roof. They can't even afford. They got to make decisions now. Do I control the fertilization? Do I purchase seeds? Like, where do I allocate this money to keep this farm going? I can't even buy fertilization no more. I gotta put this money on the seeds as opposed to fertilization. So what does that mean for my fertilization? That means my crop is gonna be stunted as a result.
Okay,
So I'll
now
buy the seeds, but I can't afford the fertilization.
I just thought of something. Let me run this by you, Black. Um, the government actually pays farmers to destroy crops when there is a surplus. Did you know that? When there's a surplus of something and they can't afford to buy it from the farmer, they give them a little kickback to say, look, we're not going to buy your corn. We got way too much corn. Destroy that. Now we know you spent money, growing this corn. So we're going to give you a little kickback for growing it, but we're not going to actually buy it for you to profit off of. We're just going to let you break even. So we'll give you a kickback to destroy that crop because we don't have no place to warehouse it. There's not enough demand for it. Did you know governments do that?
So now, how would
Yeah.
you say that there's an existing population of starving people? If you're a government and you know that there's a surplus of food, and you also know that there's a population of people who are homeless for whatever reason or is starving. I mean, I'm sure there is creative ways that we can. I just don't understand why does that make sense? I know you said almost business wise, corporately, like, oh, we can't store this, we can't, we don't have the means or whatever, what have you. But
it's when there's a surplus. When there's a surplus of a certain product or supply, and they don't need it, they like we can't get rid of the stuff that we already got. So we know that you spent money, and we know you're going to be so upset as a farmer doing all of that work and not getting paid for some of it, at least breaking even. So we'll give you a subsidy for that. But we don't need it. We don't want it. You might as well burn it.
Okay. All right. So is it your understanding that that's what's going on?
Let me put it this way. I'm not. First of all, I don't believe the whole TikTok news of the farmer who doing that, and I don't believe that to be the case. I actually believe the government that they didn't pay him to do that. However, if there was a certain situation where the government did pay him, it's because they had a surplus of the product and there was not enough demand. Now, again, I can understand scarcity in everything but food. Okay, I can understand scarcity in everything but food. The only time a government will pay you is if there is a surplus of something. They'll pay you to destroy a product or whatever. It's if there's a surplus. So if there's a surplus, we don't need it. You can burn it, but we'll give you some break-even money so that you don't have to take hundreds of $1,000 loss or whatever it was to actually grow that crop.
So you believe that the government will compensate a farmer so that he never takes a loss. If he has a surplus of food, you believe, it's your understanding, that the government will put on a cape and be a superhero, so to speak, and say, we forbid that you as the farmer will ever take a loss. We're going to pay you to burn and destroy perfectly good food, irregardless of the empty shelves that we're witnessing in real life. We're gonna, as the government,
Absolutely.
we're gonna pay you
That's what they do,
to
Black.
destroy your food.
That's what they do.
Even though it ain't no food on the shelves.
It's called farmers subsidies, and they get paid. If there's a surplus, they get paid because they don't have they have a surplus. They don't need.
I can see cattle. Okay, but when you don't see food on the shelves, I strongly disagree.
It ain't because
with what you think and believe.
It ain't
when it comes to actual farmers telling you what it really is.
It's not because there's not enough food. It's because of it's because of distribution. Is what I believe.
I get it.
I mean, if you're dealing with countries such as Russia, right, and you're in the oil crisis because of them, gas prices is going through the roof. Okay, I've been to certain states and I've seen the gas prices ridiculous. Okay, and not only that, but other inflationary things happening that chokes supply chains from distribution. Okay. And what happens is, they don't take as many truckloads or whatever. So they'll kind of throttle it back and say, we can't make all of these runs. We can't make any half runs because, gas prices is through the roof. So if you're in a cold or hot or whatever soft war or hard war with a certain country who controls oil, it's going to choke some of the, not only that, but what we just got out of, that pandemic that we just got out of, right? All of that is still a part of the background. So you don't take as many, it chokes distribution chains. So yeah, that's why you would say, I don't think it's a shortage as far as the products themselves. I think it's a shortage of distribution.
Well, it's manufactured was my original point. It's manufactured. It's manufactured.
No, it's not. It's not manufactured.
It's manufactured.
Look, we're talking about crops, right? So crops, we're talking about farming. So,
well, let me finish my point, man. Listen, I was in the oil field. I know when they shut down. I know when they drill. I know, it's a refining process that even makes the fuel that powers these trucks. I understand how that go, right? Listen, when you're at like $80 a barrel, times is good in the oil field and up. Right now, we're at 100. We're around $100 a barrel.
Yeah.
They making money. There's enough fuel. There's enough fuel for all the trucks that you can think of. That's not the issue. You're wrong about that. That's not the issue. They can run for whatever reason.
You just said they're at $100 a barrel. You telling me that's not an issue? And the gas prices is through the roof?
But to go back,
that's ridiculous.
On that food, I mean, let's think about it, right? They sent out a check to everybody for this whole pandemic, right? To every single individual. I mean, you telling me they burn crops? You telling me they burn crops when there's a surplus, when they could just send the money, the surplus to the starving population? Like, how does that?
They're not gonna do that. It costs them money. It's costing money to do that.
I'm sure less than $600 to send a fruit basket.
What?
Yeah, think about it. I mean, you telling me that's a good thing. I mean, like, think about it. You saying that they would pay farmers to not take a loss on an extra surplus of crops
I
when
used
they
to
gave away money during this pandemic, and they said, "Hey, if you got children, we'll give you extra money per child."
let me tell you a short story. Okay, once
Or,
upon a time, I was an employee at a pizza place, right?
mm-hmm.
When customers would call, and the pizza order was wrong, uh, we threw the pizza out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the back. We didn't go outside handing pizza slices out to customers. We just didn't do that. It was considered garbage. You do
That's crazy.
that because you want people to pay for the service. It's better for it to be garbage or not used than to start handing out samples of your product.
So you believe that it's better to starve people than to, it's
I'm
better to burn and throw away crops than to feed people when you know you
because
have
but listen,
pop-
but look at
it's,
it this way. If you're constantly handing out slices to everybody,
mm-mm.
why would they even ever come in and buy anything? Why would they ever come in and buy anything if they
Or what
if they
matter,
know that on Tuesday at 5 o'clock you're gonna be handing out free slices? They'll just show up then.
you taking even more of a loss by paying them to burn it. I mean, so if you're gonna take the loss, what difference do it make to you after you paid them for them to go ahead and feed the population?
You have to control your product. You have to control
Uh-oh.
your brand. You can't just start giving stuff out. There's no company really that starts giving their product out that they make out for free. It just
So
don't happen.
according to what you just said, the government will pay farmers who do corporate farming, right? That's what you're saying. So the government has to control the government's brand, right? Because technically, the government is giving the money and the seed, right? I know you heard about Monsanto's. So they giving the money and the seed to the farmer and saying, "Hey, go do this work for me right quick." But in the same token, they saying, "Hey, if you got too much of that, we gonna throw it out."
Here. Okay, listen to this, because I don't think y'all getting it. Here's the thing. Listen, the government says first of all, farmers have a deal with manufacturers, this, that, and the third. Okay, the government is actually a backup system because what the government say is we need 50 million barrels of corn. Okay, some some farmers decide to make this corn. Okay, now they already know that all of them are not going to be able to uh, get paid from this corn, but they would rather have a surplus than a shortage. Okay, so they say, okay, we got our 50 million barrels of corn, but we anticipated the surplus. So we got 70, but we don't need 70. We only need 50. So the 50 we got, we're good. We're gonna the farmers that made the 20 million, we're gonna give y'all a subsidy to protect y'all and let y'all break even because we would rather have a surplus than a shortage.
Hey, let me tell you, man, the black farmers are on their last leg. Ain't no such thing as a surplus for them. They are not getting subsidies. They are not being compensated properly. They are running out of business. Ain't no government checks. Ain't no none of that. They're not getting paid for what they do on any level,
Now
even
that's
though they're producing.
that's a
They're
different
coming
that's a
out of their
different that's
own
a different
pocket.
subject. That's a different
Well,
subject.
listen, hear what I'm saying. So listen, the issue is that some farmers are being paid to basically destroy their crops because there are mass producers. Now, the ones that have signed these contracts with like McDonald's or whatever, they're almost like employees at this point based off their finances. They're making some money, and we would call it good money. But ultimately, they're just breaking even, dang near, from what I'm seeing, from what they're reporting. So even them, the ones that are making the six figures and up, they're not getting properly compensated because of the desperation of the contract that they're in. They're creating, they have some strong negotiators when it comes to McDonald's and how they negotiate their farming contracts. But outside of them as being the huge volume producers, the other ones, the mom and pop ones that are huge on their own, listen, they throw money at them because they know you don't have no steady contract like that to where you can depend on this government check no matter what coming day, day or night. You need this money, and we know that. So we're gonna throw twice as much at you to destroy. Because listen, ultimately, whether people know it or not, the people that y'all call higher ups, they are about one thing, and it's not about money. They are not about money. They are ultimately about control. And if they can control your food, you will do what they say.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily saying I disagree with that, but first of all, that you brought up a different subject with the black farmers. Now, let me say this. Um, I will actually say that a lot of times the people who are in control of whoever is cutting these checks for the surplus, they make sure they look out for they people first. Okay, so they know this farm is white owned. This farm is white owned. This, that, and the third. And they know where the black farmers are. So the black farmers are always pushed up into the surplus. Like, if we need y'all, we'll use your products. But if we got any kind of surplus, you will be designated the surplus group. Okay, so if one farmer, his whole crop gets destroyed, we'll use y'all. But if there is any surplus, yeah, we're going to designate y'all the surplus people. So you're right, they haven't been treated the same as some of the other farmers because and here's the thing, it's not just about them uh being treated like surplus farmers, but a lot of times the surplus check don't even come, so they don't even get the break even money. And that's why they're screaming that's not fair, because they're not even breaking even because the government is not stepping in to cut that check for them. So it's almost like they're trying to drive them all to bankruptcy. They have been doing that. And
oh, you agree?
so I agree with his second point that as far as the black farmers, yes, they haven't been treated fair because when the black farmers put in for we need surplus money, the subsidies are not being made to the black farmers. It's almost as if they're driving them to bankruptcy,
which is kind of the point that he's making. Like,
and this is why a lot of black farmers have been going bankruptcy. It ain't because they don't grow great crops, or they corn look just as good as their white neighbors, but because they're black, they're not gonna they're gonna try to drive them to bankruptcy to get black farmers out. This is why they don't even buy many products and food from Africa. They don't want anybody really. They don't like black people controlling any part of their food intake.
So wait a minute, would you call that like some type of agenda? for them to notice that, oh, okay, you can grow the same type of crops, but because of your ethnicity, we're not going to do business with you. We're going to try to drive you out of business. Is that an agenda?
Well, it's an agenda to
So wait a minute.
always.
Do they do that? The government? Are they
Well,
capable of that?
from what I know, they are capable of that. I have seen some reports of the government not giving the black farmers, especially their surplus money or their subsidies, because they it's almost an effort to push them into bankruptcy so that it's controlled solely. Like they can't tell black folks y'all can't be farmers. They can't tell them that. The only thing they can do is help their business fail. And one thing about farming is if the government don't buy your surplus or give you the subsidy, it can drive you into bankruptcy. Imagine me as a farmer planting $100,000 worth of product. I'm hoping to make $1 million off of it, and a storm happens or whatever. Not even just a storm, but you don't need my product. Hey, y'all, as a farmer, y'all wanted me to grow this crop. Now there are some insurances that are involved with this too. It's not even just about the government. It's some insurance companies, because farmers do have insurance also. They insure their crops, like, you know, in case there's a snow blizzard that comes through and destroys all our crops, or there's a rodent, like they eating all of the crops or whatever the case may be. They have insurance for this, but even insurance companies are kind of in on it. They don't want to pay. So it's not just the government, it's insurance, it's everybody that's kind of pushing black farmers into bankruptcy. And this is why a lot of black people don't really want to deal with farming, because they feel like it ain't fair to them. The system ain't fair to them. They'll take care of the good old boys, but when it comes to the black farmers, they'd rather them go bankruptcy. Maybe because they don't, it's ironic, but they don't trust us with their food. But at the same time, that's how a lot of black people feel about them and their food.